All right, Lisa, I got $20, maybe even 30. Let's see what I got. All right, $20 says I can make a basket, but it has to be a bank shot off of that with my non-dominant hand, and then $20.
Okay.
Wait, I can do this. Another $10. This time, just like, what I'll do is I'll bounce it off my head into the trash can back here. And then I can double my money. Does that sound good?
You could probably double your money.
Oh, all right, you know my money. Here, you can have my money.
All right, thanks.
So in case you missed it, we're going to talk about gambling today, and Lisa's so glad that she made it to the show, which I think people have wondered before. Do people have to pay on the show? Well, apparently I just paid you $30. But no, it doesn't work that way. I never do a disclaimer on the show, which I really should every time. So this isn't medical advice. This is me picking the brain of other experts in the area so we can refer patients to each other more effectively, and then you're welcome to watch it and learn some things. And maybe call one of us up if something that we say resonates with you. So today we're going to talk about gambling.
Yeah.
Which it really looks like I need to get some lessons about that.
Well, I think your opening is the simple explanation of what gambling is. It is the chance to win. Mm-hmm. And so we can look at the DSM and we can look at all the criteria about like what qualifies for gambling disordered behavior, but really it is someone's focus on the chance to win. And so when we look at our greater culture, mm-hmm. how many areas does that fall into?
Wow. You know, I'm not coaching soccer this season, and my wife said, you know, you talked a lot about teamwork and you put in some of the kids who weren't as good, but you really wanted to win a lot. It took a lot of mental energy. So just yesterday, I was like, yeah, you're right. I really did want to win, which we won the championship last season. So I was like, I'm good. I'm done now. I quit.
And so when we look at gambling, a lot of people really think, you know, that old school thought that we can only gamble in a casino or mm-hmm. going to the lottery and getting like the scratch off tickets, or for people who go to private clubs and they have like, you know, gambling options within mm-hmm. those clubs. However, I know neither one of us have our cell phone today with us, but
no, I gambled that away earlier.
We literally have a device that now has us linked to all possibilities of gambling, and it becomes more and more accessible with laws that are approved, unfortunately, that make gambling, especially on our phones, more accessible.
Right. So you're saying it's now a frictionless process, and it probably goes beyond gambling into pornography. We used to you had to go into a store and buy a magazine. A lot of the vices, it used to be, okay, I have intentionally decided this is what I'm going to do, made the decision, decided to deal with the consequences, and now instead it's this frictionless, like, oh wait, where'd my money go? Oh, I had a few minutes, which is exactly, I saw an ad 2 days ago, because I've been watching a lot of basketball. You wouldn't be able to tell, by the way, I missed those shots. But and it showed somebody on their phone in the middle of the night as a good thing. Like mm-hmm. they just went full bore into like what's obviously terrible behavior. Like, no, this is normal. For sure, it's 3 a.m. You woke up. You really should check on your team.
Yeah. I think, you know, the ads that not only are showing the harmless effect of like checking on your team, and also who are the celebrities in the ads. So, mm-hmm. you know, we have Kevin Hart, we have LeBron James, who else probably runs? Shaquille O'Neal. And, you know, you've got the sports betting apps, which are mm-hmm. what, DraftKings, right?
DraftKings, FanDuel, all those. Which thankfully this is community television, so it'll be really hard to sue us. So I say whatever I want on here. Sometimes I've said like, oh, this drug is terrible. You shouldn't use this one for your mental health. Like, you know, whatever you want to say is fine.
Okay, and so you know you have people who want to know how to play basketball, like mm-hmm. LeBron, or you know someone who may be popular for their investing.
Right. It's all the approachable stars is what they're using. Like, hey, this guy does this, you should too. You could be friends with him. So it does become this awkward social thing. And so the reality of gambling, which is now you're poor and alone. It's more like, oh, this is something that you can do with your friends. Which again, I've seen that more and more. I've been watching the NBA playoffs. Usually, like our show on yoga, these things, there's no date to them. We, push out this content for years and years. But yesterday, the Cavs lost to the Knicks. I went to some of the playoff games, not those ones, but it's very sad for me. But it'd been even sadder had I bet on the Cavs. And that's the thing too. We live near Cleveland. You shouldn't be betting on any Cleveland sports. Don't you know your history?
Yeah. And so when we look at, the typical experiences like sports betting, sports arenas where we can go and place bets, our Guardians got into a little trouble last season, right? Because
blew up their season, honestly.
They were doing contract betting. And so, again, that's another layer of gambling that people don't realize, is that it's not even, am I betting, are the Guardians going to win or lose? It's, what's that next pitch going to be?
Right.
Are they going to strike out? Are they going to walk? Are they going to hit a home run? And you have cultures online that are real time betting on what the very next pitch is going to be. And that can be a very slippery slope when it comes to the loneliness and the isolation. So you have, a community of people that are saying, yeah, he's going to throw a strike, and really it's not community.
Right. So my older brother has a PhD in operations research. He was one of the founders of Deadspin, a sports blog. Like, he knows his stuff. And he actually did some studies on this. Sorry, John Angelus, that I've brought you into our show. And that was what he finally decided. Oh no, these systems are rigged that even me with my analytical knowledge of game theory, I can't beat these machines. Like, I can't actually win money at this, even though I have a PhD in this process.
And so then look at where people think that they can win money. So day trading, stocks, I'm investing in my future, I'm saving for, retirement. And so, you have these, again, other apps like Robinhood and other e-trader, where people think that they are the Wolf of Wall Street, and realistically, they're just Jim Bob, trying to make his next dollar.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I bought cryptocurrencies or stocks I thought were great. And honestly, even for my people of nurse anesthesia, because we're good at airway management in critical care patients, we somehow think that wisdom and skill translate into anything else, and it doesn't. No, it doesn't even translate into owning a Send Health Center, honestly. Like,
yeah, and so we have
a lot of confidence, not really anything to back it up.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of different options, these days, where people can find themselves, in a really tough situation if they allow their impulse control to really get the best of them, and then, that financial instability that comes with it.
Because again, if it's instant, will he make this free throw? You have no time to think of the repercussions. How much money is this going to cost me? Just a continual dopamine hit.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
So maybe the first thing we should discuss then is how, if someone is struggling with this, how can they create some friction so that they at least are acknowledging what they're doing?
Yeah.
Because, so if you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the casino, I'm going to blow some money, this is what I'm choosing to do. It's probably not wise, but I've chosen it, which is at least much healthier than the idea of like, what happened? So I saw something on the Dave Ramsey thing, and this woman was like, oh, my husband accidentally gambled away $30,000. And of course, the thing he says, like, no, you can't really accidentally gamble away $30,000. So at least have the knowledge of, oh, this is what I did and I shouldn't have, rather than, oh, wait, I gotta put this bet before I really think of the consequences of my actions.
Yeah, so the first part that comes to mind is a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy in there. So we're constantly having to think about what are the emotions, how are our thoughts and behaviors all intertwined with each other. So I have the thought, $30,000 is a lot, unless that was, a one button hit kind of type thing.
Right.
And what is going on internally when someone is losing versus when they're winning? What is the cognitions that they're telling themselves, and even the distorted cognitions that they're telling themselves to justify and rationalize why they need to continue to play.
Okay. And some of it's probably just throwing good money after bad, where you're like, well, I gotta catch up because I've lost all this money gambling. I better try really, really hard and make it happen, or whatever.
Yeah. The sunken loss fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even with machines at a casino, they want you to play to extinction, which means you play until there's no more money left to play.
Right.
So.
And even looking at, like, if you go to the Jack, I think it's still there, where if you play for 30 minutes, you get free parking, right? So again, are you ultimately paying more in parking than what you would have if you would have just paid the ticket or walked, right? So parking, we'll give a nice round figure, say $50, right? In 30 minutes, how much money do you think a person could actually lose trying to win free parking?
Well, does it work in your brain too, where once you start connecting those neurons, like 30 minutes worth of gambling, that you probably will then gamble until you run out of money? Is that how you feel it sometimes works too, where you almost like rev up the engine and then it's sort of over?
It kind of depends. And this is going to be individualized for people too, because gambling is a little different of an addiction when it comes to what primes the pump, so to speak. And so, like, when we look at substances, like if I am addicted to alcohol, there's a good chance that I'm also going to be addicted to other substances because of how that interacts in the brain. What we have found with gambling, because it is more behavioral, I can go into a casino and not be able to manage myself in a casino. And then I could get myself put on the voluntarily opt-out lists. So we talked about, like, how do we remove ourselves from these kinds of situations. There are apps as well, like GamFim, that will help you look at your financial consequences. And so, there are ways that you could kind of push the brakes a little bit in those aspects. But then also somebody might go to the bingo hall, be able to spend $20, call it a night, no problem, but get them in front of that slot machine and all bets are off. And so there is a little bit different kind of approach when we look at this too, in terms of harm reduction, where what are the preferred methods of gambling versus other areas where because there's social structures around it. So for example, I have a client that will go play Keno with friends and be social and be able to stay within limits, but in a one fell swoop spent $3,000 on online casino gambling. And so then again, where is that buffer? Is it the community aspect where I don't want other people to judge how much I'm spending, versus that isolation, I'm on my phone, nobody knows. And this is different from a different substance as well, because like when somebody's hungover or when somebody is using opiates, we can kind of tell. There is a physical expression that comes with somebody who uses substances, right?
Absolutely.
With some,
even in their behavior.
In their behavior. Somebody with gambling, they can hide it for a really long time, and there's no physiological cues that let us know that this person might be into trouble.
Or physiological consequence on it, where they wake up and they're like, oh, I really got to stop this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, one of the biggest risks for gambling is suicide. And suicide prevention is a big part of why we really want to get people to be aware of the harms of gambling.
And it sounds too that the social bonds, which I was talking about the ads, how they've changed over just the last few years since it was legalized by the Supreme Court, which part of this discussion is not everything that's legal is good for you, obviously.
Yeah.
That just because, there's all these ads, it must be fine, everyone's doing it. No, that doesn't mean that it's appropriate for you. But because these ads are changing to say, hey, for men, this is a great way to bond with your peers and make some friends, that we can probably flip that around and say, no, a way to keep you safe from this is to be with friends, is to have like the social constructs. Because you said winning is everything in gambling, and that's a uniquely American social construct where you need to win at everything. So, because I'm sure other cultures have these issues, but probably not as deeply as, again, in America, you have to win by yourself. It has to be you doing it, just the pride that we take in that. So almost having more of a community, trying to get some friends, which I realize is, especially for guys, can be challenging, but there are ways that, in this case, it's more important, because if you don't do this, then you're going to lose a lot of money. So it's almost like an investment, like your friends as a way to buffer you from some of these dangers.
Yeah. We know the best remedy for any kind of addiction is community, right? Which is why, 12 steps and other support groups are popular in a way to help people manage their addiction, and also find other people who understand what it's like.
Right. Who can see those steps and say, hey, let's just watch this game or whatever it is.
And I would even say, we need to take a step and kind of roll the tape back even further to that prevention lens of where are kids being primed to have this type of addictive quality in their behavior as they get into adulthood. And so, when you look at when we were younger, you bought the game system, you bought the game, you blew in it once or twice, you stuck it in the machine, and you had all you needed.
You played, and then you died or beat the game, and you were done. And then you went off and did something else.
Right. And now we have this whole new market where you buy the game and it doesn't come with all that you need. Maybe there's a player or a skin or a tool that you have to buy separately, called loot boxes.
Right.
And so the more you buy in these loot boxes, that intense kind of impulse experience, that you would want, you have to pay to play to gamble, pay to play, in the casino, pay to play when it comes to sports betting.
And even the color schemes of a lot of the apps on phones, they're the same color schemes as what you'll see in a casino with the slot machines. So, and it's all infinite. Instead of like you start, you stop, you go do something else with your life. Instead of that moderation, it's like, no, you play this until your parents yell at you and make you get off of it.
Yeah. And so all you have to do is put in your credit card, level up, another $20, or in some cases, parents, put their credit card number in so the kid can play a game, and not realizing until they get their next month's credit card statement that, little Timmy or little Susie racked up $300 in loot boxes.
And one solution for that, obviously you can just take away the TV and the phones and all that stuff, but one practical solution is encouraging kids to play cooperative games where, your friend has to go do something with his family. Well, you're done because you needed him for this game. So ways so that you can connect, even if it's digital, where it still requires other people, as opposed to the sort of behavior that leads to 20 years later, they're still alone in the basement playing something. So
I would say bring out the board games, and, try and bring about more connecting fun, as opposed to that isolating where I am sitting by myself in this digital age with people also who are sitting by themselves, but in this digital community.
Because even with board games, if someone gets bored because all of a sudden there isn't a dopamine hit, so to speak, then it is like, no, you can't quit. It spent us 5 minutes to just set up this board. We are going to continue this. So some of that is the processing and the teaching of, okay, even if things get a little boring or tough, we continue on because we said we're going to play this game or whatever. So there are lessons there for sure. So we've talked a lot about dopamine hits. Maybe it will be helpful to explain it slightly. So what I'm saying is, in the brain there are circuits that get reinforced over and over again. At Ascend, we'll use TMS, therapy like you do at Carbonell Path, psychiatry with different medications, ketamine infusions, because we treat gambling. Although for everyone listening, usually when we have these shows, I say something vague like, I don't know, if you like one of us, go on our websites, make an appointment, But in this case, I think if someone has a gambling problem, they should turn to you first. And then you can figure out if you need to also send them to us or what the appropriate step is, because you're the one who's done the gambling fellowship. I consider you the expert in this area.
Yeah.
But that is what happens. So the neurons make these strong connections where it's very hard to break, that the default mode for the brain is, well, I'll pull out my phone because I'm happy, or because I'm worried, or because I have a few minutes, or whatever rationalization our brain tells us, and that's what leads to this behavior, and that's what makes it so hard to quit. Although it is fascinating to hear that it's not like if you go to an AA meeting, everyone's outside smoking because they stopped drinking, but they found something else addictive. You're saying that there's these social constructs around gambling where they can avoid spending all their money in one context, but then another one, there's like no limits sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a social construct other than what is the preferred way to get your dopamine. You know, if you like, you know, the slot machines and the bells and the whistles and the different graphics that can come along with those types of games versus, you know, poker, where it's very slow and you have to wait for the dealer to kind of deal things. You know, what do you like? Do you like that higher stake where I have to wait and the anticipation is part of the dopamine hit? Or do you like the, you know, the flashy lights and the spinning and the vibrations and all of those things? And again, depending on what you prefer is going to be where you lean into. Like I had gone every March, it's Gambling Awareness Month. And so the PGNO, which is our state problem gambling network, likes to host people to come in and do property tours at each of the casinos in the state of Ohio. And, you know, we get to talk to people who run the casino. We also get to observe people who are already in the facility. And, you know, when I'm there and I'm watching people barely make it through the door and already putting their money in the very first, you know, machine that they see, and sometimes they might have stood there for a few minutes depending on if they were winning or not, and then to quickly cash out and choose another machine and another machine. You can kind of watch somebody go through their method. And again, the cognitive distortions are very, very high when it comes to why someone may be winning and why someone may be losing on a particular machine or at a particular game even.
Wow. And you're saying too that through the internet there's all these subreddits or forums where people might say, oh, this is the way we do it. So it's almost like a group thing. Does that make it more difficult for, like I know at Carve Your Own Path you work a lot with different neurodivergent populations. Is there more of a risk or less of a risk sometimes?
The way I kind of look at this in terms of, you know, ADHD or neurodivergent people is, yes, we are more susceptible to things that may be impulsive, right?
Because the nervous system's crackling a little bit higher frequency.
Crackling. You are absolutely right. The other thing that I learned recently at gambling conference was we're also looking at what happens biomedically when women go through menopause. You know, estrogen drops, which means our dopamine centers are altered, and this is actually a high time for women to be susceptible to gambling addiction. And there is a wonderful phenomenon about gambling on cruises, and you win a free cruise. And so how do I get you to come back is that now you're back on the cruise again and you're going to go back to that casino to try to win another cruise. Right. And so again, how much did that person spend winning that cruise, just like how much is that person spending trying to win free parking at the Jack Casino?
And it's a win-win for the company because either get that person back to gamble more, or they take all their money and then they can't afford cruises anymore. But you know, they've finished with a customer, so to speak.
Yeah.
Wow. So when did you finish your gambling fellowship anyways? Because it's been a few months at least, right?
It has been almost, I think it's a 8 or a 9 month process.
Awesome.
We started in September, and I officially graduate next month in
Awesome.
June. So I will give my final presentation there. It's been a really wonderful experience to be a part of PGNO as a member, also as a fellow. I've met some really great people, and unfortunately, the need for gambling services is very high, especially in our state, and the amount of providers are very low. And so in order to effectively and ethically provide gambling services, you do need to be trained.
Right, absolutely. So if anyone watching this is interested in reaching out, what's the best way? Like go on the Carve Your Own Path website, or?
For gambling services, yeah, they can go on Carve My Own Path. Oh my goodness, Carve My Own Path, and Carve Your Own Path websites. Also, you can go to PGNO or Problem Gambling Network of Ohio and look at their resources as well. And if you are thinking that you have a problem, you can, look at some of the opt-out options and see what feels right for you.
Right, so you can just create some friction.
Creating that friction, yeah.
And for Ascend, ascendhealthcenter.com, our phone number is 330, I'm having the same problem that you are now, 754-4844. We can help with a lot of these problems as well. For us, we do have a class tomorrow, which I don't even know if I'll get this out there by then, on anxiety with Paula from Creative Calm Coaching. She used to be our nurse at Ascend. Sometimes it is an anxious thing where if you can settle your brain down, you have more of a chance of making the right decision. Do you guys have any other workshops or anything else coming?
We actually are doing a whole series of free continuing education courses for licensed professionals. They can check those out on our website as well. Ethics, supervision. I will be doing a specific presentation on crossover with gambling and substances, and embodied or somatic therapy interventions. And all of those are listed on our website, and those will be free to the public through a grant that we got.
And it's great too because, the game that we're talking about, as you said, it's very individual. So it's not a one size fits all that, have a ketamine infusion, now your brain is altered and you'll be great. I mean, occasionally that works, but a much better idea is what you're saying, that sometimes it is somatic, where as they're sensing these sensations, they can realize what's happening, kind of cut it off before they're about to, pull the plunger on the slot machine or whatever it is. There's just so many different ways to, because I feel it's such a beast in Ohio. Even the governor a few months ago said, I really regret allowing a lot of this to happen. They passed a law where you can't even bet on individual college players because they're all getting death threats because they missed a shot or something random like that. So it is a huge problem, and it's only getting bigger. It
is. And, I appreciate that you bring up, legislation, and that is definitely one way to kind of monitor what's going on, because the next thing will be iGaming, and the stipulations and complications of that will be very, very drastic.
Absolutely, yeah. Because again, when there's a lot of money to be had, there's a lot of corporations that are trying to influence legislation, and we're the ones that suffer for it. So.
Yeah, and looking at sweepstakes, and what does it mean to have a sweepstake? We use sweepstakes for fundraisers. We're here at the high school, and I'm sure that there are lots of ways that we think
raffle tickets,
absolutely. That we are trying to promote our own community, and yet what is the impact to our community by, again, putting the seed, it's just bingo, it's just a raffle ticket.
For a good cause.
Right, it's for a good cause. And even kind of going back to like games and gaming, when I was at conference, there was lots of different speakers talking about, the black market of, these kinds of game, whether it's skims or it's weapons for a particular kind of game, and a fake weapon on a fake game basically was listed as $8,000, you know, and
Right.
there are people who would think I'm going to be the better player if I win this thing.
I've invested
and
so much in this game that this is the next logical step.
And these things are not real transactional pieces. And, you know, we can even see many other high-risk opportunities to happen online when it comes to scamming people, even, you know, when you're looking at sweepstakes and those types of get rich quick.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on the show today, Lisa.
Yeah, no problem.
And you've been watching the Ascend Health Show.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.